Welcome to another episode of Step by Step Talks. I'm your host, Rohini Kapoor, and today I have Rhona Konnelly back with us again. Rhona is a dear friend, but a very, very determined and ambitious lady who is fighting for revolutionizing insurance relationships, service reviews, and results with insurance policies. And not only does she stop there, she's bringing awareness to the public and to the insurance industry on the importance on reviewing, on servicing, on training, and much more. Rhona, I welcome you back to our podcast. We had a fantastic podcast the first time we talked, and now we're going to be doing a four-part series where you are going to educate our audience on the importance of why you bought the insurance policy, why it should be reviewed and serviced and changed if necessary, right?
Exactly. Thank you, Rohini. It's great to be back with you.
You're welcome.
So Rohini,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, let's start with you telling us the important considerations for existing insurance policies. You have talked about this in sales congresses, you've talked about it in conventions. I think you were just away a couple of weeks ago talking about the importance of servicing. Now, when I was an advisor, I had many clients when I called them and said, I'm ready to come and service your plan. And they say, no, we don't need our plan changed, which is perfectly okay. We don't need a service. And I learned very quickly that the terminology I was using when I called them was completely incorrect, because it's not the plan that needs changes, it's your life that has changed. And there may be changes in your life that need to be addressed to. And this is where the training part comes in. So this is what you are saying is lacking a lot when it comes, because there are a lot of policies that are known as orphan policies. Do you want to expand on that so that our audience can understand this in a simple language?
Would be happy to. Rohini, the Life Insurance Marketing Research Association provides regular updates to us in the industry from a consumer perspective, how they're feeling about insurance. Do you know that a recent research study stated that about 62% of insurance consumers out there have no idea what they have in the way of insurance, why they bought it, because nobody has followed up with them to determine how their changing needs have impacted that original insurance. Maybe they bought it 15 years ago, for example, or 10 years ago when their life was different. And if we look at the landscape in Canada, I've been in the industry over 4 decades. I have been part of its evolution. And do you know, during that time, insurance companies merged, they got authorization to demutualize. Now, these are terminologies that are important for consumers because it impacted their insurance policies. And when we think of the word orphan policyholder, what does that bring up in people? People don't know what that means. What it means is that they've literally been neglected or abandoned
By their agent.
or been given, yes, or been given the opportunity to talk about what that insurance really is, to reinforce its benefits. And, agents do leave the business. We do have people that become disabled or pass away. I mean, it happens. But there is a gap in our industry that there are so many. There could be millions of, it's estimated that 40% of insurance policyholders in Canada are deemed orphaned.
Wow.
They have
Now
not even had anybody call them and say, I bet you were wondering when an advisor was going to call you to see how you're doing and give you a review of your insurance to make sure it meets with your current needs.
You are so right. I mean, you're saying 40% of the policies are orphaned, and it could be that they were passed on and on to different advisors, and eventually nobody wanted them, so they were put into a corner and just hidden away. So nobody had the opportunity to give a client a call, or the client may have refused to talk to the agent. You never know. That happens too, right? So these 40% orphaned policies, what happens to them, Rona? What happens? Where are they?
When we think about a policyholder in Canada who purchases an insurance, even today, what is that contract actually about? I like to refer to it as a promise to pay. That insurance company issued that policy on behalf of that client. And at some point in the future, there will be the potential for a claim. Now, what would that claim be? It could be a death claim. It could be a critical illness claim. It could be a disability claim. There are a variety of different insurances, but orphan policyholders are created the minute that the policy sold, unless the advisor reinforces the importance of ongoing reviews. Why do they matter? Well, maybe in today's environment, a lot of policies are e-delivered, which I'll tell you right now, Rahini, I don't agree with.
Well,
You
I never
don't
did
send a
e-delivery.
policy contract over an email.
No.
But if we go back to the time when you and I were in the industry and we
Yeah,
placed great importance on
the
I
delivery.
love delivering policies to my clients. I had fun with them. It gave me an opportunity to look for the next opportunity, or maybe I was introduced to a family member. We made it an important exercise because it's a legal contract with inherent benefits that over time people forget about. Or if there's a specific option date that they have to exercise that benefit and it comes and goes, whose responsibility is that?
Yeah, because the insurance company is not going to remind them. They used to before, and now I don't think they do.
That's
So
an interesting point, Rahini. I don't know that they even did back then. I think they relied on the advisor because I know I was trained that
I think they
when we delivered that policy, we reinforced to them that we would stay in touch. And even it wasn't about buying another policy, which is what consumers think when they get the call. It's, I need to make sure that this current insurance meets your needs today.
the thing is, I believe I remember that we used to get term conversions. Term conversions were always sent out, when it was closer to the date. I think the client always received a notice. But 10 years down the road, the client's not going to remember what a conversion is,
They
right?
might not even understand that terminology. I
That's
used to
exactly what I
say in
mean.
the early stages, Rainey, I'd say to myself, I've got to think like a layperson when I'm explaining the insurance and the benefits and the contract itself. When a person buys a policy, there are certain clauses that are really important. One of them
Exactly.
being the incontestability clause, and another one being the suicide
Suicide
clause.
clause. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What about when you're delivered your policy that there is a rating on it? And if you get your cholesterol level down,
The
the
rating will come
insurance
down.
company will consider taking it off. Well,
Yeah.
if that is never reviewed with the client, or the advisor leaves the industry after 18 months and it's a 2-year window to get back to them about that rating, it comes and goes and the client is never informed. It is a living, breathing document. And Rahini, I like to refer to it as an individual's largest unmanaged asset, because at
Exactly.
some point there will be tax-free money to pay that client or their
Exactly.
beneficiary.
For the beneficiary. You're very right. Let's go through, Rona, some of the benefits the audience can understand that they're missing out on when they disagree to see a client, to see an agent. Like you may have your, like you said, premium payback options, or they may have future insurance options, or so on. What can we tell our client, how important it is for them and what kind of benefits they can have on their plan? And maybe if they haven't been heard, or they haven't heard from an agent for a long time, maybe it's time to start looking for somebody who can look into their plans. The time that I know that everybody looks in the plan is when somebody is almost near death. That's when they start looking at the insurance plans. And sometimes it can be very late. I've been through that in my career, where it was too late to do a term conversion, or it's too late, the policy had lapsed, you couldn't reinstate it. We wouldn't want that to happen.
You know, I encourage those listening to do one important thing. I encourage you to pull out every piece of insurance documentation that you have gathered over the years. And if you have a copy of your policy, bring that out too. And depending on who your advisor is, you can expect a review. Ask them. Ask them to help you understand what you have. Are there riders that need to be implemented to work? They don't just automatically happen.
No.
There could be ratings that need to be reviewed or taken off, or maybe if they're permanent, not much you can do. But what about their changing needs if they've become uninsurable? Do they know that a conversion means that if you become uninsurable, you can change that type of insurance to something else and not
Long
have to go
lasting.
through another medical exam? It's helping the clients to understand this legal document, to understand when the promises of pay to pay occur. So I encourage your audience to start with that. And if you don't have somebody or you're not confident in the response you're getting when you request the review, they should reach out to you and ask for guidance, because there is a way that they can be helped. It's difficult if all you have is a 1-800 number.
Yeah.
I can tell you this right now. This is important for your audience to know. All of the issues that you and I are talking about right now require an educated, licensed insurance advisor who represents policyholders, looks after them, and helps them navigate perhaps some of the complexities. There are some complex policies out there that I would say, Rohini, came out in the early 80s. It's called a universal life insurance contract.
Know it? Yeah.
Those are the highest maintenance insurance policies. You need an educated person, and the consumers deserve to have that.
So now I know that you're on a quest to get this out to the public and get it out to the insurance companies as well. What do you think is lacking? Where is there a gap that this is not happening? Why is this happening?
I don't think, and you and I have talked about this before, Rahini, I don't think that it's about blame. I think it's about practices that have fallen away. And in the absence of having advisors coming into the industry and it becoming a standard practice, there are a number of advisors out there who do an excellent job at servicing their in-force insurance clients. And there are others that don't know that it is a critical component part because it is not an industry standard.
Yeah.
It is an advisor standard. So the gap that I see is that while an advisor has to submit a reason why letter to the insurance company as to why this particular product was chosen, what it's fulfilling in the client's needs today, there's nothing at the bookend of that about ongoing service. And I want that to change. We cannot expect advisors coming into the industry today who are not trained, A, on how to deliver a policy,
Policy.
and B, how to service it correctly. If that is missing, then we have a gap. Now, who can help fulfill that? Well, I think first and foremost, and I commend you, is we are bringing it to the consumer level, because we want consumers to know this is your right to expect ongoing service. When I was started in the industry, that's how I was trained. I was trained when I delivered a policy to say to my client, now I'm going to be in touch with you every year just to check
Exactly.
in. Maybe you've got a new job, maybe you lost your benefits at work, maybe your spouse got diagnosed with cancer. I'm not calling you to say, how have your needs changed with insurance? I'm calling you to request a family review and to make sure that that insurance is in alignment with those needs. It
Yeah,
was just part of what I did, right? It's same
yeah.
with you.
Especially if there's an addition in the family, a young family, they need more insurance, right? Maybe somebody started a business, you need more insurance. You've taken loans, you need to cover those. Most people never think about that, right? Especially young families that are growing, growing. They definitely need a lot of insurance in place right now.
Rohini, I would say, and I would think back on the clients that I was with them for so many years as they had their children, as they built businesses, as they brought a family member into the home to care for them because no one else could care for them. Life happens. I've actually got a life cycle of insurance needs piece that I use with advisors. We can maybe talk about that next time. But it helps people to understand that, when you buy an investment, for example, when you're a younger person and you're just starting to grow your savings, look at the needs are so different. Do you keep that same investment strategy 10 years from now? Why should the insurance be any different?
Yeah.
Even when a person buys a car, there's a maintenance program built into that where they're ongoing getting in touch. It's time for your checkup. It's time for your oil change. we have lost that perspective in the industry. I want to bring it back. I want the consumers to know that we do care about them. And we've got an aging demographic in our world that's not going away, it's only getting larger. People
Mm.
are more active. And even as they get to retirement, they have needs for protection. It's
Of course.
interesting. People think that, oh, I'm not going to need insurance after my kids are gone and I'm retired. Nothing could be further from the truth. Advisors are missing out on, and consumers are missing out on having opportunities to enhance the use of insurance.
When I was a new agent, I remember with Metropolitan Life when I started, they took us down to the vault where there were a lot of policies that had never been claimed. And do you know there's millions of policies lying in a vault right now that have never been claimed? Now, if these policies had been serviced and they were not orphaned and they were in touch with the clients, family members would come to know that there was a policy in place. Many family members didn't even know that their parents had plans in place and they're sitting in some vault somewhere, never claimed.
There's exactly
Yeah,
there's even let's take there are insurance companies right now in Canada, for example, that have products that they sold
yeah.
in the 20s that they don't sell anymore, of course,
Mm,
20 years ago that they don't sell, but those policies are out there.
yeah,
There are people out there. Let's say we have a client who's paid their premium faithfully for 50 years and all of a sudden has a care need and doesn't realize that as a result of diminished health, they could access some of that death benefit
cash.
now as a
Uh,
living benefit.
that.
They don't know that that's built in. It's called a terminal illness benefit, as an example. There are so many amazing things we could do for people by reaching out and saying, do you, I'm very excited to share with you this benefit that you have. It doesn't matter what the gap is. People are waiting for the call. Think of how
Exactly.
advisors could, and I really want consumers to take the initiative and find out more about their insurance. And if they haven't heard from anybody, it's time now.
Yeah.
Now you doesn't matter. There is a way to have your insurance reviewed starting now, set a new precedent, and hopefully I will be able to influence the fact that consumers should be informed about this. They should
Yeah.
not just say, okay, uh, I haven't heard from anybody in 3 years, and they forget about what they had.
Mm.
Nobody reminds them that they could access a benefit or a rider and it expires. I think it's about changing the industry now, and we want consumers to be the beneficiaries of that.
Definitely. I mean, another point you brought up was about insured children. As they grow up, they have, they're substandard when they get the policies. And when they turn 18, they could have policies without a rating on them. And that rating needs to be dropped.
Well, think of it this way for anyone listening. You take out a term policy for your family, and you have each of the spouses on it, and you have 3 children
Yeah.
who are under the age of 10. Just to
Hmm.
say, and you add a rider. There is an insurance company that has a rider called a child rider. And all children under the age of 18 are given a specific rate. It's a flat rate based on a smoker rate, what a smoker rate would cost, or substandard as you refer to it. It's essentially a little bit of a higher premium. And when they turn 18, they have the right to bring the cost down and
Mm.
become a non smoker. They have that option. One other thing with those child riders is that they expire at age, the rider on the parent's policy has a specific provision that up to the 25th birthday, that child could be taken off the policy and changed to their own policy. No
Right.
medical evidence, even if they had a health issue. But if they don't tell the insurance company, the premium for that child rider keeps being charged on their policy. Now, the
Yes.
only way that could be rectified is if somebody informed them and said, hey, you're 5 years away from that rider. I'm going to document it into my customer relationship management system, which back in my days, it was pen and paper. You did reviews, so you knew that you could bring that up with your client. Now it isn't something the insurance company will automatically do. It requires service. Think, Rohini, of all of these option dates and these fabulous benefits that require an advisor to help. It isn't automatic.
No. Definitely not automatic. So now that we've brought this up to our audience, and I encourage our audience to, get in touch with Rhona or myself, and we can guide you towards the right areas or what you can do if you have plans that you don't know anything about or you can't find an agent. And because of a lot of mergers and acquisitions that have happened in the last 20 years, I think, it's hard to get in touch with the right people, and we can guide you and take you to the right people. But as we move forward, Rona, I want you to talk about what's happening at the industry level, at the insurance industry level. What is going on with the advisors? Is there a lack of training? Is there no training? What is going on?
My experience has shown that when the brokerage industry began to expand in Canada, and I would say that's probably the mid to late 80s. So we're talking 4 decades,
Yeah.
roughly.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, prior to that, individuals who were helping their clients with insurance solutions, they literally were part of an insurance company and were employed by that company. Then, when the brokerage industry entered Canada, for example, that meant that there were individuals who represented an agency that offered many different insurance company offerings. And that particular system, I feel, is what bred the lack of service. It's what bred a lack of proper training, like you and I had, especially around servicing. And it has evolved to where it is today. So, what is the landscape in what I have seen with advisors today? They don't know how to review an older policy. There's no training on how to review an older policy.
Wow.
There's no training on how to implement a best practices program around that. We have advisors in Canada, for example, that are what you would call buying a book of business. So
Yeah.
you have an advisor who worked for XYZ insurance company many decades ago, has decided to leave the industry. Either they're going to sell that book of business to a new advisor, or there will be a junior person coming in to transition and take over the clients, whatever it happens to be. They're only looking for new insurance opportunities, unfortunately, Rohini. They're
So they
not looking for how to help that existing client perhaps take advantage of new solutions, maybe make a modification to their current policy. The practices have fallen away, and it's time to raise the bar. I am a strategic consultant in insurance excellence. I think there's a huge opportunity for us, the experts, you and I, those individuals who've come through the evolution and have watched that fall away. And it is a noble thing to do. An advisor who differentiates themselves and says, I take pride in looking after all of my clients and make sure that if they are close to an estate planning conversation, I include their family, I secure introductions, and that promise to pay is going to be fulfilled. It will not end up in a vault.
You're very right. I have a program where I coach new advisors, with 10 steps on what they have to learn how to be an advisor, because it's okay to go and sell a policy, but there's much more behind that as well. And I know there are a lot of advisors with tons of designations, and they keep adding on the academics, but the people that they're serving are not getting served. Right now, when we were trained to make the phone call, go see the client, assess their financial needs and analysis, do a risk analysis, come up with a plan, sell them a plan, deliver the plan, which I used to love doing because I used to take a basket of fruit with me every time I took the policy. It was just something I did. Every client who I met got something or the other, a box of chocolates or a fruit or something, for no other reason other than, we have now built a bond. And it's a bond that's going to be there forever, because that's when you sell a life insurance policy, it means it's there for life. And you're going to be there for life, right? But now, with the attrition rate of advisors coming and going and not getting enough training, do you think that is the reason why it's happening? Because the training is not proper?
I think the training is not proper. And I do feel that it's become an industry of transaction.
Ah,
Think about the fact that when an individual buys an investment, it's a transaction. People don't cancel their insurance policies
No.
as quickly as they will move investments from one advisor to another if they don't feel they're getting value. We have to think about that. Think of how long people have a policy, much longer than they've ever maintained any relationship with an investment firm, for example. It's very rare to find that where a person will, but as their life evolves, they find that if, and it's out there in print, what advisors don't realize is that there's expectations that clients now have today of a relationship where there might be a fee involved in dealing with that advisor. So I think it's a combination of many different factors trying to make things easier since COVID. So that's where the email of the policy contract came in. We've got to get back to the fruit and the richness of the relationship component. No robot will ever be able to sell an insurance policy. A robot will not, AI will not impact an advisor's ability to sit with a client and talk about the fact they've had a major health challenge that's going to impact their life. We are the ones who are there. And we have to realize that AI won't affect the fact that an advisor has to be licensed. So at the end of the day, there will always be changes, but at the core of what we do is the heart of that promise to pay, making sure that clients are reminded. And we have a great opportunity right at our fingertips right now by raising consumer awareness, which is what you're doing, Rahini.
Exactly. And you, Rona, definitely. There are so many new programs and coaching sessions that I keep seeing that are coming up, and none of them even address what we're talking about. I mean, you are just doing an amazing job, getting this out to the consumer and addressing the core reason of what we do. Right? The delivery
Oh
of the
my
policy.
goodness.
We're not doing it. We didn't sell you a plan just because it's a product to sell. We did it for a reason. It's to protect your family, your grandchildren, your wife. You know what I mean? It's not just there as a piece. It's not transactional, just like what you said earlier. Now
If you
you
want
have
transactional insurance, you can get insurance where you get your
online.
mortgage.
There you go.
You can buy
Exactly.
it online. Is that what you want? Well, there are some people out there, Rahini, that do that, that
I
manage
know.
their own investments. We know that. That's
Yeah.
not what a individual insurance contract is about. It has a point in the future when there will be a benefit to that client or their family, and that needs to be reinforced on a regular basis.
Definitely. And especially if you're getting into business and you're growing and you're getting wealthier, the more necessary you need a plan that has to be serviced so that you can get into better tax planning later in future. Right? There's so much more that we could
Exactly.
expand on, but we're going to do that in steps. Rona, what are the next few? We have this is a 4-part series. What are the next 3 series that we're going to be addressing?
Well, we've been talking a little bit about training, haven't we? So we're going to talk about the role of training in equipping advisors for success and being able to build a service model. It's got to start at the grassroots level. If there's
Yeah.
somebody out there who wants to take advantage of what you offer, let's talk about that. Maybe that will resonate with some of your audience. What about service becoming a promise beyond having purchased the policy? That is an
Yeah.
integral component on 2 sides. Number
Mm.
one, the advisor needs to let the client know, this is what you can expect from me. Now that you have this valuable asset in place, here's what you can expect from me over time. The client can also be made aware that if you have changes in your situation, if there's someone in your family who's been impacted adversely, I want you to pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah.
This is not something, it also has to work on that side as well. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the benefit to consumers of unlocking some of the hidden wealth in their policies too.
Oh yeah.
And then the 4th part will be, how do we build this bridge? How do we make sure that advisors and clients understand their respective responsibilities so that the future of the industry is elevated? And we will talk about long-term goals and some of the reasons why a consumer might want to review their insurance and take advantage of something they didn't know existed. We'll help them understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and you know what? You're not speaking just out of anywhere. You've dealt with this in the past because you've gone to orphan clients and helped them, and they've found gems in their policy. Let's put it that way. They find
We
gems,
can
little
share some
gems.
stories. You and I can
Exactly.
share some
Yeah,
stories. People
exactly.
can identify with the stories.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Runa, that was so wonderful. I'm so glad to have you back on my podcast, on my show, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 episodes that we're going to have in the next little while. Um, if you like what you've heard, please hit share, subscribe, and like. And at the same time, Rona is available at, where can they reach
They
out
can
to?
reach out to you, Rohini. I will
Yeah.
let them reach out to you if you like. I do, if anyone has a LinkedIn access, I do have a profile there. Maybe we can share when we get to the next session. If anyone's given thought to something and they want to reach out to my email, I can provide the email then.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you can reach out at www.stepbysteptalks.com, and you will find a confidential address you can email me at, and I can share it with Rona, and we can start helping you, direct you to the right people, or helping you with any questions you may have. Rona, I want to thank you so much. How is the weather in BC today?
Oh, we have a beautiful sunny sky. I feel like winter kind of left us behind, and I'm okay with
Oh,
that. I think we're
okay.
already in spring.
Oh, perfect. I'm coming there tomorrow, so I hope that it's going to be nice and
Wonderful.
warm when I get there, right? It's been
Oh,
lovely
lovely.
talking to you as usual,
You
and we
too.
will
You
get
too.
together again in our next podcast. Thank you, everybody, and see you at our next podcast.